Sergeant Blake, are you aware of what justice means? Judge Raymond's voice echoed through the courtroom, sharp enough to cut the silence. The officer smirked, hands resting on his belt. With all due respect, Your Honor, I enforce justice. I don't preach about it. The judge's gavel slammed against the desk. Crack! The sound jolted everyone. Then you've forgotten your oath, officer. Because what I'm looking at right now isn't law enforcement. It's abuse in uniform. The courtroom gasped. Even the young man in handcuffs, bruised and trembling, lifted his head with a spark of hope. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe, because what happens in this courtroom will leave you speechless. And don't forget to comment your country's name below. Justice has no borders. Judge Raymond leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the officer. You claim he attacked you, but from where I stand it looks like you were the one who forgot what power really means. Sergeant Blake's smirk faded. Are you accusing me, Your Honor? I'm not accusing you, the judge said coldly. I'm reminding you. The badge you wear doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you accountable. The officer's jaw clenched, his pride visibly cracking. The judge turned to the trembling man in chains. Speak freely, son. This court will listen to you. The man took a breath. Your Honor, I tried to save a boy, and that's why they arrested me. The judge's expression hardened. Then today, the truth will speak louder than the badge. The courtroom sat in stunned silence after the man's trembling words echoed off the walls. Judge Raymond leaned back slightly, his eyes narrowing as if weighing every breath, every twitch of movement from those in front of him. He looked first at the defendant, a man in his late 30s, lean, with bruises fading across his jawline and a deep cut just below his eye. His clothes were still stained with dried mud and faint traces of blood. Then his gaze shifted toward the police officer standing rigidly, the gold badge on his chest gleaming under the courtroom lights. State your name for the record, Judge Raymond said calmly, though his tone carried the weight of command. Ethan Cole, Your Honor, the man replied, voice hoarse but steady. And you, officer? The judge continued, turning toward the uniformed man. Sergeant Daniel Blake, sir. Metro Division, the officer said sharply. The judge's pen tapped against the desk, once, twice, before stopping abruptly. Mr. Cole, you just said you were arrested for trying to save a boy. I'd like you to explain exactly what that means. Ethan's lips trembled as he spoke. There was a kid, maybe 8 or 9, running across the road at night. I saw him dart out in front of a car. I didn't even think, I just ran to pull him away. The driver swerved, crashed into a lamppost, and before I knew it, these officers had me on the ground. Sergeant Blake scoffed quietly, his arms folding across his chest. Tell the whole story, Cole. You resisted arrest, threatened my men. Enough, the judge interrupted, the gavel slamming once. You'll have your turn, Sergeant. For now, the defendant speaks. Ethan nodded, eyes welling with tears. They hit me, Your Honor. When I tried to explain, they said I was lying. Said I caused the accident. But I swear I didn't, I was only trying to help. The judge's face tightened. He turned toward the prosecution table, where a young district attorney flipped through a thin file with visible unease. Mr. Sanders, do you have the police report from that night? Yes, Your Honor, the DA said, rising to his feet. The report states that the defendant was found at the scene of an accident, appeared intoxicated, and resisted arrest. The officers appeared intoxicated? The judge interrupted. Was a blood test conducted? Not immediately, sir. It was done hours later at the station. And what did the results say? Mr. Sanders hesitated. Negative, Your Honor. No drugs or alcohol were found. The judge leaned forward, fixing his gaze back on the officer. Sergeant Blake, care to explain why a man with no record, no substances in his system, and visible injuries was charged with obstruction and assault? Blake's jaw tightened. With respect, Your Honor, the man was behaving suspiciously. The child was nowhere to be found when we arrived. The driver's car was totaled, and witnesses claimed they saw him running from the scene. Running? Ethan cut in desperately. I was running toward the boy. He fell into the bushes on the side of the road. I pulled him out before that car hit. The judge gestured to the clerk. Get me the dashcam footage from that night now. Blake shifted uneasily. There. Wasn't any footage, Your Honor. The cameras on our patrol vehicle malfunctioned. How convenient, the judge muttered under his breath. Then louder. Malfunctioned or disabled? The officer's eyes flicked with anger. Are you accusing me of tampering with evidence? I'm asking why your version of events keeps changing. Judge Raymond said, his voice suddenly stern. "This court is not a stage for arrogance, Sergeant. It's a temple of truth." The room grew colder. Even the bailiff shifted uncomfortably. Ethan's public defender, a weary woman in her 40s named Ms. Lillian Grant, finally spoke up. "Your Honor, my client's story can be verified. We have a witness." Blake's head snapped toward her. "That's impossible." "Actually," she said, holding up a file, "it's not. A shopkeeper from across the street filed a statement the next morning. Said he saw Ethan pull the boy away before the crash. He even provided the store's CCTV footage." The entire courtroom murmured. Judge Raymond raised his brows. "And where is this footage now?" Ms. Grant looked directly at the officer. "Missing, Your Honor. The shop was raided the same night. Equipment confiscated under a so-called evidence sweep. But no report of it exists." The judge slammed his gavel again. "Sergeant Blake, did your department authorize this raid?" Blake hesitated, then said, "We had reason to believe—" "I didn't ask for your belief, Sergeant," the judge roared.
"I asked for your authorization."
The officer stood silent. His silence spoke volumes. Ethan looked down, whispering to himself. They were never after justice. Judge Raymond exhaled heavily, trying to contain his anger. "Mr. Cole," he said more softly, "when you were arrested, did anyone explain the charges to you?" Ethan shook his head. "They said I was a troublemaker, that people like me shouldn't interfere. I kept asking about the boy, but they told me to shut up." "People like you?" the judge repeated. "What exactly did they mean?" Ethan hesitated. "I'm a mechanic, Your Honor. I work the night shift." "I don't look—" "Respectable enough, I guess." The courtroom grew uncomfortably quiet. The judge rubbed his temples. He had seen many cases, liars, criminals, even killers. But this man's trembling sincerity, his bruises, and the officer's defensiveness, it all pointed to something darker, something that stank of corruption. He looked toward Ms. Grant. "Counselor, do you have any evidence of misconduct by the arresting officers?" "We're compiling it, Your Honor," she replied. "But it's not easy when half the evidence conveniently disappears," Blake smirked. "Maybe because your client's story keeps changing." Judge Raymond's eyes snapped to him again. "Watch your tone, Sergeant. One more word out of place and I'll hold you in contempt." For the first time, Blake's composure cracked. He glanced toward the back of the courtroom. Two fellow officers sat there, arms crossed, watching nervously. The judge noticed. "I see your colleagues have joined us," he said. "Perhaps they can shed some light. Officer Jenkins, Officer Cruz," he stepped forward. Both men exchanged uneasy glances but obeyed. They stood beside their sergeant, hands clasped behind their backs. "Were either of you present at the time of arrest?" the judge asked. "Yes, Your Honor," Officer Jenkins said. "Then tell me, under oath, did the defendant attack any officer?" Jenkins swallowed hard. "No, sir, he was trying to explain himself, but Sergeant Blake ordered us to restrain him." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Blake's face flushed red. "You lying?" "Enough!" the judge shouted, gavel cracking like thunder. "This is no longer about one man's word against another. This is about the truth being buried under authority." He turned toward the bench clerk. "Summon the internal affairs representative immediately. This case is being reviewed now." As the bailiff hurried out, Blake muttered under his breath, "You're making a mistake. Your Honor, you have no idea who you're dealing with." Judge Raymond's eyes turned icy. "Oh, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. And if the badge on your chest has become a shield for injustice, then I'll make sure it's stripped off before this day ends." A heavy silence settled once again. Ethan lowered his head, whispering, "Thank you, Your Honor. No one ever listened before." Judge Raymond gave a faint nod. "This court listens, Mr. Cole, especially when the truth is begging to be heard." And for the first time in years, the judge felt something rare, a fire burning in his chest. Not anger, but resolve, because today wasn't just another trial, it was a test and of justice itself. The heavy courtroom doors swung open with a slow, deliberate creak. Every head turned. A woman in a dark gray suit stepped in, her expression sharp as a blade. Her badge glinted subtly on her belt. "Internal Affairs, Special Investigations. Agent Monica Reyes," she announced confidently, stepping forward. "I was informed of a possible misconduct hearing." Judge Raymond nodded. That's correct, Agent Reyes. You're here to observe and, if necessary, investigate this case, and starting immediately. Sergeant Blake's jaw clenched as she walked past him without acknowledgement. She moved like someone who had seen 100 lies before breakfast, and was ready for 100 more. Let's make one thing clear, Judge Raymond said, voice calm but firm. This courtroom will not be a place for manipulation or intimidation. We are here for truth. Proceed, Ms. Grant. Ethan's lawyer, Ms. Lillian Grant, rose again. Her tone was composed, but her eyes burned with quiet fury. Your Honor, as I mentioned earlier, my client was accused falsely. The arresting officers fabricated evidence, and the so-called witness statements were never verified. Now we have testimony from one of the officers contradicting their superior. Agent Reyes flipped open a tablet. Sergeant Blake, can you explain why Officer Jenkins' account differs from yours? Blake straightened his back. My officer is confused. He's under pressure. The defendant resisted arrest. That's all there is to it. Reyes didn't blink. Then why does your body cam footage show no signs of resistance? In fact, it shows no footage at all for the entire arrest window. Blake swallowed. Like I said, a technical malfunction. Reyes raised a brow. Interesting coincidence. That same malfunction has appeared in 4 of your last 6 arrests involving civilians who later filed complaints against you. A chill spread through the room. The judge leaned forward slowly. 4 cases? Yes, Your Honor, Reyes confirmed, scrolling through her tablet. All dismissed due to lack of evidence, all under Sergeant Blake's supervision. The judge's eyes darkened. Sergeant, do you realize the gravity of what I'm hearing? With all due respect, Your Honor, Blake snapped, you're overstepping. I've served this department for 15 years. I've put criminals behind bars while others, the judge interrupted coldly. While others what, Sergeant? Try to hold you accountable. Blake's composure cracked. You don't understand the streets. People like him, he pointed at Ethan, make a mess and we clean it up. You sit here in your robe judging us, but you've never— Enough! The gavel slammed down. You will not lecture this court about justice. You will answer to it. The sound echoed like thunder. The spectators were frozen, eyes darting between the furious sergeant and the unflinching judge. Agent Reyes broke the silence. Sergeant, I have a signed statement from Officer Jenkins and Cruz confirming that Mr. Cole was cooperative. They also confirm you ordered the destruction of a witness's CCTV footage. Blake's eyes widened. That's absurd. They're lying. But the courtroom could already see the panic setting in. His voice had lost its strength, his arrogance now curdled into desperation. Judge Raymond turned to Ethan. Mr. Cole, you said earlier that the boy you tried to save disappeared. Do you know what happened to him afterward? Ethan hesitated. No, Your Honor. The last thing I remember was pulling him away, then waking up in cuffs. Reyes stepped forward. Your Honor, my office located the boy's family this morning after receiving your summons. The boy's mother confirmed that Ethan Cole saved her son's life that night. She said they tried to find him afterward, but were told by police that he'd been arrested for causing the crash. The courtroom gasped. Judge Raymond's voice trembled with anger. And they never questioned the officer's report? Reyes shook her head. The mother was intimidated. She received a call warning her not to get involved. The judge's knuckles whitened around the gavel. Sergeant Blake, he said slowly, you have not only abused your authority, but corrupted the very core of justice you swore to uphold. You turned the badge, a symbol of protection, into a weapon. Blake stepped forward, his tone shifting to arrogance again. You think this changes anything, Judge? I've got friends higher than you can imagine. One call, the judge cut in sharply. And what? You'll threaten a federal agent? Or a sitting judge? Go ahead, Sergeant. Make that call. Let's see how far corruption can climb before it collapses. The silence was suffocating. Ethan sat frozen, eyes glistening. He whispered, I didn't think anyone would ever believe me. The judge turned toward him. Belief isn't enough in this room, Mr. Cole. Only truth matters, and the truth has found its voice today. Reyes nodded. Your Honor, I recommend immediate suspension of Sergeant Blake pending full investigation. Given the officer's history, I also recommend his badge be confiscated on the spot. The judge nodded gravely. Bailiff, collect the badge. Blake's face turned pale. You can't. The bailiff stepped forward, firm and unflinching. Sergeant, remove the badge. Blake hesitated for a moment. then ripped it off his uniform and slammed it on the judge's desk. "You're making a mistake," he hissed. "No," Judge Raymond said softly. "I'm correcting one." He looked down at the badge, gleaming but hollow, stripped of honor. "This symbol means nothing without integrity. You forgot that, Sergeant. You thought power was protection. But power without principle is just fear." The courtroom was silent, heavy with the sound of truth echoing louder than any gavel strike. Then, Agent Reyes spoke again. "Your Honor, given the evidence and testimonies, I move to have all charges against Mr. Cole dismissed immediately." "Granted," the judge said. "Mr. Cole, you are free to go." Ethan's hand shook. He blinked as though he didn't believe it was real. "Free? Yes," the judge said softly. "You walked into this court as an accused man. You walk out as an innocent one." Tears rolled down Ethan's face. "Thank you, Your Honor, not just for me, but for every person who doesn't get to speak." Judge Raymond's tone softened, though his eyes remained firm. "Justice isn't mercy, Mr. Cole, it's courage. To do what's right, even when it costs you." Reyes turned to the judge. "We'll be taking Sergeant Blake into custody for questioning." Blake sneered as the agents approached. "You think this ends with me? You're wrong. There are dozens like me out there. You can't fix the system." Judge Raymond's voice was calm, yet it carried the full weight of truth. "Maybe not, but we can start by removing one corrupt badge at a time." The agents led Blake away as the spectators whispered, some in shock, some in quiet approval. The courtroom doors shut behind them with a resounding thud. Ethan lingered for a moment. "Your Honor?" "Yes, Mr. Cole?" "If you hadn't listened, if you'd just believed the report like everyone else, I'd be rotting in a cell right now." The judge gave a faint, weary smile. "That's the difference between law and justice, son. Law is written in books. Justice is written in conscience." Ethan nodded, then turned and walked out into the sunlight. Free, but forever changed. Judge Raymond sat back in his chair, staring at the empty courtroom. The echoes of the confrontation still lingered in the air. For a moment he looked down at the confiscated badge resting on his desk. Its metallic shine caught the light, cold, lifeless. He whispered to himself, "The weight of justice is heavier than any badge." And with that, he lifted his gavel one final time and struck it down, sealing the truth forever in the record of his court. The story spread like wildfire. Within 24 hours, headlines across the city screamed, "Veteran judge exposes corruption inside police department. Sergeant suspended after explosive courtroom clash. Justice or overreach? Debate divides city." Judge Raymond Holt didn't need to read the papers. He could feel the storm in every step he took through the courthouse corridors. Some nodded in respect. Others turned away whispering. He wasn't surprised when the letter came the next morning. "You are hereby summoned before the Judicial Ethics Committee to explain your conduct in case number 4572. He folded it neatly and placed it on his desk. He'd known this day would come. 3 days later, courtroom 1A was filled again. But this time, Judge Raymond wasn't behind the bench. He stood before it. Across from him sat 3 senior judges, their robes darker than the shadows in the room. Reporters filled the back rows. Cameras flashed. The air was heavy, expectant. Ethan Cole was there too, sitting quietly near the exit, his hat in his hands. A voice called out, "This hearing will now come to order. Judge Raymond Holt, you are accused of judicial misconduct, breach of protocol, and defamation of law enforcement officers. How do you plead?" Raymond's voice was steady. "I plead for the truth to be heard." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Chief Justice Harmon, the committee head, leaned forward. "Judge Holt, you overstepped your role. You publicly humiliated a decorated officer without due process. You let personal emotion interfere with judicial conduct. Do you deny that?" Raymond paused. "No, Chief Justice. I do not deny I showed emotion. I deny that it was misconduct." The chief frowned. "The courtroom is not a stage for emotion. It's for law." Raymond took a breath, his voice rising but not shaking. "And what is law without humanity? Ink on paper. Rules written by men who never bled for them." The chief slammed his gavel. "Control yourself, Judge Holt." Raymond smiled faintly. "That's the problem, Chief. We've all controlled ourselves for too long. We've controlled our outrage, our conscience, our compassion, until justice became mechanical. We let procedure replace principle. The murmuring grew louder now, reporters scribbling furiously. Chief Justice Harmon glared. You dare lecture this bench about principle? I dare, Raymond said simply. Because I've been where you are. I've seen good people punished for not fitting into the lines we draw. I've sentenced men I knew were victims of a broken system. Because the evidence was missing, the witnesses were scared or the cops were corrupt. And I stayed silent. He paused, eyes lowering for a moment. Until that day, when a man in chains looked at me and said, all I did was stop them from hurting a child. He turned toward the audience, his voice trembling with conviction now. That was the day I remembered why I became a judge. Not to serve rules, but to serve justice. Chief Justice Harmon banged the gavel again. Enough of this grandstanding. But Raymond didn't stop. He took a slow step forward. Every time we ignore the truth for the sake of formality, we destroy what this robe is supposed to represent. If speaking the truth in my own courtroom is misconduct, then I accept that title with pride. The entire hall went silent. Even the other two committee judges exchanged uneasy glances. Chief Justice Harmon sighed. You're leaving us no choice, Raymond. I never asked for one, he replied. After a pause, the chief spoke the words quietly but clearly. Judge Raymond Holt, by unanimous decision of this committee, you are hereby stripped of your title and judicial duties effective immediately. The gavel came down. One final time. Gasps echoed through the room. Some reporters rushed out, phones buzzing. Others sat frozen, stunned. Raymond stood still, shoulders squared, eyes calm. He slowly removed his robe and folded it neatly on the bench. Justice isn't a chair you sit in, he said softly. It's a truth you stand for. As he turned to leave, applause broke out, hesitant at first, then growing louder. The courtroom erupted with it. Even the bailiff, eyes wet, clapped behind his desk. Ethan rose from his seat, tears glimmering in his eyes. As Raymond passed, he whispered, You lost your robe, sir. But you gave justice its voice. The judge smiled faintly. Voices echo longer than titles, son. Outside, reporters surrounded him with questions. Do you regret your decision? What will you do now? He paused on the courthouse steps, looking up at the gray morning sky. Regret? He repeated. No, you only regret silence. And I've been silent long enough. Ethan followed him down the stairs. Where will you go now? Raymond glanced at him. Wherever truth still needs to be heard. As they walked away, the courthouse loomed behind them. Tall, proud, and suddenly smaller. Inside, the robe still lay folded on the bench, catching the faint morning light. It was no longer a symbol of authority, but of courage. And for years to come, people would speak of the day when a judge broke every rule to remind the world what justice really means.